Breadwinner is a film directed by Nora Twomey and is based off of a book series of the same name. While some people may begrudge the movie for taking liberties with the source material, I won't, simply because these are two very different mediums and their stories should be distinct. Otherwise, what's the point?
Great.
Like every movie from Cartoon Saloon, The Breadwinner was critically praised but panned for an Oscar. Unsurprising given its indie status, Afghan sympathies, and America's Islamophobia, all of which I think made it particularly invisible in the United States. So, what is this movie about? Well, Parvana, a girl who disguises herself as a boy to provide for her family after her father's arrest by the Taliban in a barely pre-9/11 Kabul. Sounds simple, right? Right? Wrong.
They were all of them deceived.
For another tale was told. In the land of imagination, in the head of Parvana, the child created a not at all secret story to entertain her brother, but it evolved. And into this she poured all her pain, fear, and trauma for audiences to see, yet somehow managed to confuse some critics. One fable to royalty. Please don't sue me. In all seriousness, there are two stories being shown. The main one being Parvana's day-to-day life, the other is the Elephant King, and the focus of this video, because, like I said before, critics did not know how to interpret this. Fortunately, I have no life, and am therefore equipped to do all the research they don't get paid to touch, because in case it wasn't clear before, I love this film. So, for the uninitiated, The Elephant King is a story Parvana makes up to distract and entertain her younger brother and best friend, respectively. In it, a boy must retrieve his village's stolen crop seed from, well, the Elephant King. During his quest, the boy is pursued by a nameless entity in the form of red fog. Anytime he looks back and sees it, it causes him great distress. Like, to the point where he stumbles and falls into a deep sleep. Which I thought was unusual the first time I saw this, but on second viewing, it mirrors the opening sequence, so I knew it was important. More on that later, though. Seeing her daughter has hit a bit of a block, Fatima continues the story by giving the boy a way to defeat the Elephant King via a quest for 3 items. Something that shines, something that ensnares, and something that soothes. The boy collects the first 2 with little problem, and for his effort is given the name Suleiman, after Parvana's older brother. Which, sidebar, makes the Elephant King a striking combination of symbols. Across many Eastern cultures, elephants are emblematic of strength, wisdom, and good fortune. Where, in the West, they're known for their memory.
But an elephant never forgets.
Now, Nora Twomey has stated in interviews that the Elephant King isn't based on any Afghan myth or legend. So, merging the 2 spheres of influence, I say it's a memory. But given its spiked appearance and volatile behavior, it's an unpleasant one. Probably Parvana's worst. Which is why the elephant is also a symbol of strength, because not everybody has it in them to stop running from the ghosts of their past. Not when all the fear, pain, and anger they can conjure can crush a soul into despair. Feelings I believe manifest themselves in the story's red fog, and surround the Elephant King, mirroring that which Parvana fears the most. Another death. How Suleiman died seems like a strange pick for something that soothes, but it's a phenomenon that's not unusual to the traumatized, where telling their truths can purge survivors of their fear, and reciting them over and over again can act as a form of exposure therapy, lessening the memory's impact, thus allowing for healthier emotional regulation. The more Suleiman repeats his story, the less intimidating the Elephant King becomes until, eventually, he sits down and listens. Soothed because Parvana is. It's a coping mechanism. Obviously. But what isn't is the history that initiated it. True, the movie hints at Afghanistan's wars, some subtle, some not, but the target audience is still children, meaning a lot of context had to be cut. Like 12 pages worth. I'm not going to give you that comprehensive of a primer, but I do believe a basic rundown is in order. From the 1970s to 2000s, here we go. So if this is something that you already know and or are triggered by, please feel free to skip to this time in the video. For the rest of you, there will be disturbing images. With that said, buckle up because we're going to Plaid.
They've gone to Plaid!
To start, Afghanistan used to be pretty nice back in the day, until a coup sponsored by your friendly neighborhood Soviet Union kinda ruined it all. The coup was completely bloodless, but left a man named Muhammad Khan in charge, whose goal it was to reunite the Pashtun people. Read he wanted to annex a part of Pakistan. Like, a big part. One leading out to the Arabian Sea, which coincidentally would have made Afghanistan a lot less landlocked and therefore a lot less reliant on the Soviet Union. Naturally, Pakistan wasn't pleased and heightened security around the Durand Line. All of a sudden, Annex Annie had to repair relationships pronto. He started by distancing himself from the Soviet Union. They didn't like that and proved it when they activated a communist cell within the army that had Khan killed. And then invaded. Oh, did I forget to mention this was around the height of the Cold War? My bad. 1979, the US got involved in its usual awful manner. Basically, the CIA gathered extremists from all over the Muslim world into Afghanistan, giving them money, weapons, and training, and then bounced once the war was won in 1989, because consequences aren't a thing. That same year, the Mujahideen leadership devolved into a level of warlord thuggery, the likes of which birthed the Taliban, who conquered huge swaths of the southern provinces with very little resistance and Pakistan's backing. But the North wasn't the South, and as a result, the 90s were marked by a bloody civil war, where the thought was he who controls Kabul controls Afghanistan. So here's just a taste of what Parvana and her family would have gone through. We'll start with Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, aka the Butcher of Kabul, so named because he killed over 50,000 men, women, and children, shelling the city over a span of years in the early 90s. Then General Massoud, who in 1995 led tanks through Kabul's southern suburbs, driving out the Shia Hazaras and later the Taliban. Finally, we have the Taliban themselves, who in 1996 famously tortured, killed, and strung up President Najibullah for all to see. 24 hours after taking the city, they enacted some of the most stringent sharia that not only expelled women from the workforce, but doomed roughly 25,000 families to face the possibility of starvation. 'Cause that's how many were headed by war widows. So imagine friends, neighbors, family fleeing injured or dead because of this and never knowing when it's going to end. Now, it's gunning for her father. Only this time she can do something about it. But Parvana's not an idiot. She's seen too much of the war to have blind hope, but she's not jaded enough to think that there isn't a chance. Still, everybody has a threshold for how much they can withstand to lose, and the Elephant King is a subconscious acknowledgement of that, because it does so much to mitigate it. Like providing Parvana with closure while clearing the slate, so to speak, for potential round 2. And a therapeutic template to follow just in case. Granted, this is all speculation on my part, but it tracks in a hope for the best, prepared for the worst, unsurprised by anything in between kind of a way. Which brings me to the movie's end and lack of resolution. It's not accidental. Thousands of families were separated during the opening salvo of U.S. operations, an unfortunate reality that many had to cope with. Another was the Taliban's resurgence in many parts of the country only a few short years after. So the reason the movie doesn't have a solid denouement is because Afghanistan doesn't. The conflict is still ongoing. This is the happiest ending the film could give while being true to the experience. Hence the flowers in this film. From the seeds in the story to the tapestry to the blooms they saw on the streets, they, like hope, spring eternal, cropping up in the most unlikely of places where their beauty is needed the most. If you enjoyed Breadwinner, check out Wolfwalkers, because knowing the United States film industry, this independently produced movie isn't going to get anywhere near the coverage it deserves. Yes, this is a shameless plug. Wolfwalkers is available on Apple TV in the United States as of December 11th of 2020. Nobody's paying me to say this. Go watch it, it's amazing. Same goes for the Deborah Ellis book series. Most any library will have them available in ebook format. They're quick but not necessarily easy reads, especially Parvana's Journey.